Hello everyone, so welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be doing a video on the evolution of Soviet civil defense gas masks. So right here I have a GP5, the earliest and the most famous. I have the GP5M or GP6, whatever you call it, or the PMG2. My favorite sort of Soviet civil defense mask. And here on the far right is the GP7, if you can see. So, all of these masks, the first two, the GP5 and GP5M, whatever you want to call it, so, they come with a GP5 filter, which is known to contain asbestos, so you wouldn't want to wear those. And all of these Soviet masks are, they all have GOST threads, so you could only like connect Soviet filters or Warsaw Pact filters to the masks. You can't attach sort of a NATO filter to it. And all of these masks can use the defogging lenses that usually come with them. Some of them don't, but like you can see that all of the lenses are the same, so you can install them inside. I did a separate video on that. And first off, the GP5. So this mask, somewhere after World War II, or when World War II began, the Soviets made a mask called the SM1, and that is like the ancestor of this mask. And this mask is, you can see it's made in 71. It's the sort of Soviet helmet type mask, and it's the most famous gas mask in the world. So over 100 million of these made, and it's really cheap. There's just this one sort of snout, 40mm GOST, simple outtake. This is the outside layer for blocking big particles or like dirt can't get in. And then the inside is actually a second layer, so the mask actually works. If this breaks, you have a second layer so you can still like survive. And on the inside you can see that there's two tissues tubes. Just ignore the tissues. I like to put them in so the mask doesn't rust. And the tissues tubes, they defog the lenses. And these lenses, you can put the defogging stuff in. It's just like two transparent sort of, I think it's the inserts. I never opened one of these, except for one time I forgot. Anyways, so you just simply put that in, and it will start to defog. But these are all really old, and usually like they are yellowish, and they don't really function well. So here's the bag of the GP5. It's a simple bag. I don't actually like it because it always deforms, and it's not very sort of practical since it's so small. And here's the GP5 filter. I already know it. And all together, this would be called a GP5. The mask itself is called a SM62. So that's the SHM, the face piece, and then all together this would be called a GP5. And here, whatever you want to call it, there's like 3 names for this. I like to call it the GP5M since it came with a civilian kit. So what it came with was a filter. Sorry for the camera. So it's a GP5 filter that came with it. And if it's a military version of this would be called a PMG2. So it would have a larger EO18 or EO62 filter, so contains more charcoal. So this mask is basically the upgraded version of the GP5. So there was less made, but this was also made around the 60s. Forgot to say that the GP5 was also around the 60s. So when they started making them all the way to the collapse of the Soviet Union. And this mask actually is pretty interesting. So this mask, they thought the GP5 was using too much rubber, and it didn't have a voice diaphragm, so they just added a voice diaphragm. And unscrew this. So how this works is you have this plastic O-ring and the other metal piece. So there's this thin membrane here, and it is supposed to vibrate when you talk. So you can actually talk outside of the mask. Usually when you don't have this kind of sort of voice diaphragm or speech membrane, you wouldn't really sound good. It's like a muffled voice, and people can't really hear you. So that's why they added this thing, the voice diaphragm, and it's just the same sort of 40mm gauze intake outtake as the GP5, and this also has the sort of ear holes. The ear holes are meant for hearing, and this was mainly a military mask, since it was given to officers so they can talk to each other, and it's a pretty good mask. You also have the ears out so you can hear much better than the sort of GP5, where it's covering your ears, and these ear things. Some people say that gas would get into your ears if they're exposed, but actually no, because you would be wearing a entire NBC suit, and your ears would be covered anyway. But if you're just wearing the mask, gas would get into your ears. And since this is a GP5M kit, it comes with the same bag as the GP5 and the same GP5 filter, which has asbestos. And yeah, it's just basically the GP5 upgraded, and I think it's much better than the GP5. It's my favorite of the sort of Soviet civil defense masks, and it's pretty good to wear because it's the one size fits all thing. Whatever size you pick, it always fits you, unless you have a really small head. And here is the sort of final, not really the final, but the final Soviet GP, the sort of GP series, or for the Soviets, of course, the civil defense mask. So this is the GP7, GP5, GP6, GP7, and this GP7, it was when the Soviets decided that they need a much more complicated mask, because they saw the Western mask and they were like, oh my god, they're so advanced, because they've been making all of these super simple and effective masks for I don't know, really, really cheap. And this mask is more expensive and it has more features, but actually did worse than all of the sort of previous masks, because this was a giant fail for the Soviets. Because this mask, it isn't very good. There's also a military version of this with the triangular lenses, which is called the PMK, and GP7 isn't good. This one was made 92, so that's when everything went wrong and the Soviet Union collapsed. And this is I think size 2 is pretty big, these masks. So this is a GP7V specifically because there is a drinking tube that comes with it, so you can drink. That's one of the Western mask features. So if I pull this out, this is a drinking tube, and it wraps around the voice diaphragm. There is a voice diaphragm, the same sort of round lenses that the GP5 has, so all of these things can be interchangeable. And the inside of the mask, it has this weird rubber hood thingy around it, and the straps are really uncomfortable. So here's the inside of the mask. I put this the plastic thing that it came in so it could keep its shape. I don't know what's going on. So these masks, when I stored it for about a year and a half, this mask started to deform, so I had to put this thing in. And it's made of this black rubber, just like the GP5M or GP6, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the same kind of rubber. It smells a bit different, I don't know why. And yeah, it's a bit cheaper to produce. You can see that it's starting to deform around here. And this mask was a massive fail because a lot of people didn't like it. So there's no sort of Tissot tubes for the lenses, so they just fog up really easily. What I did is I just put some soap in it so it didn't fog up. And this mask, a YouTuber said that the inner hood goes into your eyes. For me, it's not that much of a problem because it doesn't happen to me. And the rubber hood is just kind of uncomfortable. I don't really like it since it's kind of weird. Why don't you just put sort of a oral nasal cup? They just didn't put it. And there's also the sort of drinking tube inside. I can't really show it. It's just right near the voice diaphragm. So the voice diaphragm works all fine. The intake outtake is upgraded. The entire mask is upgraded except for the lenses. They just designed an entirely new mask, and usually the quality of these are really bad. And because they were made at the fall of the Soviet Union, and they just didn't really care. And also, a Western mask feature, the filter actually goes in on the side. So that's the Soviets copying the Western sort of masks, and they just failed because it was way too complicated, and they weren't good at making these complicated masks. When they made it sort of simple, they made it good. When they made it complicated and tried copying the West, they just ended up failing.